So, this is a follow-up to my original review of The Philosophy of Modern Song, which at this point was like damn near a year ago. And since then, I've like been down the rabbit hole in various aspects of just like Bob Dylan in general. And, specifically though, like Bob Dylan's relationship with this Eddie G guy who he gives credit to for helping him with the philosophy of modern song, but there's like no indication of what exactly Eddie like contributed to it. So when I made that original review, I had not read like all that much of the book, to be honest. I had read like, I'd skipped around and just read whatever kind of stuck out to me. And the things that I came across were like gems, dude. I gotta say, and I guess really the book is probably just full of gems, and that's just what's up, there were like some like semi-perverted things in it that really just like rocked my socks, and I was like, oh fuck yeah. I'm all about this, but I think I'll talk about that maybe in another recording. But I've been giving like a lot of thought to this whole Eddie G thing, because Eddie G was responsible for Theme Time Radio Hour as well, right? And Theme Time Radio Hour was what, like 2000? Theme Time Radio Hour was like 2004, 5, like I don't know. It was a hot minute ago, 2006. So I've just been thinking, like, how long have Bob and Eddie known each other? How long has this been going on? Right? Like, and I asked that question because, so we know that they've known each other for at least 20 years, basically. Right? But how long did they know each other before that? And the reason that I ask, and the reason that I'm curious, is because I recently came across the liner notes to World Gone Wrong, which was 1992, okay? And the liner notes of World Gone Wrong bear a very, very strong resemblance to what is written in the philosophy of modern song. Very strong resemblance. It's pretty much the same, to be honest with you. The only difference is that it's a little bit rough around the edges when it comes to things like capitalization, punctuation, stuff like that. I'm just going on memory because I only read it once, like recently. So my question is this, right? Because they're so similar, there are a couple possibilities. Either Bob Dylan actually is responsible for the philosophy of modern song, and that possibility opens up a whole can of worms, like, for me, like, just delicious worms. Like, I'll explain the reason that I say this, some other time. The other possibility is that back in 1992, Bob and Eddie G freaking knew each other. They knew each other back then, and Eddie was writing things for Bob. That's a possibility too. Now, that's like 31 years ago. Because what is Eddie contributing exactly to the philosophy of modern song? What did Eddie contribute to the Time Radio Hour, right? Like, I was under the impression, after looking into it, that Eddie basically wrote all of the Time Radio Hour, and Bob Dylan just read it and did a great job reading it because it was awesome, you know. But did Eddie write the philosophy of modern song, the Time Radio Hour style, and Bob Dylan just read it? Or did Bob really write it? So, yeah, those are my thoughts. How long have Eddie G and Bob Dylan known each other? And is Eddie G just basically Bob Dylan's ghostwriter? Because, think about it, if he was around in 92 and wrote the liner notes of World Gone Wrong, then did he also write Chronicles Volume 1? Because I had said in my original review that I felt like it was the same voice in Chronicles Volume 1 as Philosophy of Modern Song. And I still agree with that kind of, like, this is a whole other recording, but, you know, Chronicles Volume 1 is a lot more, like, book-like, you know, it's a lot more autobiographical, you know, it's not the same as Philosophy of Modern Song. Like, to me, if Eddie G has really been around in Bob Dylan's life since, like, 1992, then I feel like Chronicles Volume 1 was way more written by Bob than by, like, Eddie. Like, I feel like he probably did write that book a little bit more than Philosophy of Modern Song, for example. And what really, like, drives me up the wall is, well, we'll never know the answers to these things, but one thing I will say is that if Eddie G really is ghostwriting pretty much all of these, like, books or whatever, one thing I can say is that I appreciate the fact that, in that case, that I appreciate Bob Dylan has been using the same ghostwriter for, like, at least 30 years that we know of. You know what I mean? In that case. Because that's nice, you know, that gives some familiarity and some, you know, it makes his writing consistent, at least, you know. Even if Bob's not the one writing this stuff, at least it's the same and it's consistent throughout the decades, you know. Right? But if Eddie G has ghostwritten these works for Bob, okay, the last thing I'm going to say is, you know, any, like, learned Bob Dylan fan, any appreciator of Bob Dylan who knows their shit has heard all of the theories that Bob's always used ghostwriters. Like, since the beginning, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's heard that theory. So, if it's not true, and if Bob really has written these books for the most part, then it's so weird that people think that he's been using a ghostwriter forever, right? It's so weird that people think that, and it's kind of like a kick in the nuts, honestly. Because imagine having written all that stuff and you really did write it, and people are like, Bob didn't write that, somebody else wrote that, ghostwriter, right? Like, that would suck. those are my